Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me, your host, Tommy Gilbert, as we take a seat at the table with coaches and student athletes to get a behind-the-scenes look into Titan athletics. From in-depth breakdowns to fun stories, you can catch it all right here on Titan Table Talk. Good afternoon, Titan fans, Titan family. We are starting week 10 of Titan Table Talk here in the fall of 2024. We are filming our first episode pretty early, so week 9 just aired a couple hours ago, and I'm sitting here on this beautiful Tuesday night with interim head men's and women's wrestling coach Adam Richards. Good to see you, Coach.
Hey, thanks. Good to see you.
So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the start of the season, but also a little bit about now the second year of the women's program and the second year in the long-awaited return of the men's wrestling program. Obviously, last year, the first year of competition for the men since the 80s, the first chance for the wrestling program to start getting to experience a little bit of the Shirk Center, and then, of course, the new facility over at the Eastview Building downtown. But largely with a group of, a handful of people who were recruited to wrestle at Illinois Wesleyan and several who were already here. And now this really that first step in year 2 of having a real freshman class of people who were recruited over the past year plus to come wrestle here. How's that been going so far in the early going?
It's been great. It's been really good. It's good to get new personalities in, get some new energy, and there's a learning curve with it, and they're figuring it out. And the older guys, the returners, are doing a great job keeping them going. But they definitely that are newcomers. Some of them bring an attitude because they came here for a reason. They came here to wrestle, and they came here to win championships, and so they bring a little bit of attitude to the practice room, which just raises everybody up, raises their level. So it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's probably in many cases the number one great attribute when you're looking at a roster of 22 wrestlers and 16 freshmen out of those 22. There's obviously some downside too. There's obviously going to be some learning curve for sure, especially when it comes to the off the mat stuff, just getting used to the college environment, getting used to the academic quality and the challenges they're going to face in class. And when you've only got 6 upperclassmen to lean on for that, it does get trickier at times. But I know we were talking a little bit before we went on air about how you're really happy with the way the upperclassmen have stepped up in the last couple of weeks to kind of help the freshmen out with that stuff.
Yeah, we had a talk, and some of the freshmen were struggling in some areas, taking care of small things, just making it to study tables, things like that, and we asked our upperclassmen to talk to them and to lead by example, and they do a great job of that. Like you said, a lot of them were here on campus, and they were here to get a great education. That's why they came here first, and then the wrestling program started, and they joined the wrestling program. So they're great students, they're great citizens, and they took that on as a challenge, and they picked them right up, and we've had really started to take off with a couple of really good weeks, stacking good weeks on top of good weeks, and you can see the freshmen are growing in their confidence. They're taking care of the things, and it takes a lot of stress off the coaching staff, takes a lot of stress off of them. They enjoy the workouts a little more when they've done what they're supposed to do, and things like that. So yeah, it's been a really good positive step over the last 2-3 weeks.
Does help when you have one fewer thing to worry about, at least there
for
on
sure.
the plate. For sure, definitely.
The talks are a lot happier for full practice.
Yes. So another week and a half or so that's really just practice before you guys open at Milliken on November 9th. And we're going to look past that for a minute, and we're going to look to that Friday, November 15th, which is the first ever wrestling meet inside the Shirk Center. Can you give us a sense first most of our listeners have spent a lot of time in Shirk, and very few have seen a wrestling event at Shirk with the exception of, if you stop by in July for 1,200 12 to 14-year-old wrestlers, and you can kind of smell the mats from halfway across the building. This will be the first collegiate wrestling meet held at Shirk. Give us a sense of what the setup's going to look like, what you're expecting, any challenges we faced along the way in making that happen.
Yeah, so there's some challenges. Just finding space to for weigh-ins and for warming up and things. But Wagner's a pretty great guy, organizing things and getting things done, and so we feel like we got that pretty well. We'll just have one mat. There'll be one mat in the middle. I was actually just going over some logistics this afternoon for us. One mat. Looks like we're going to do some spotlight entries, We'll have some music. We'll have an announcer. It's going to give away, I believe they said they have 500 rally towels, so we're looking to pack the place. So we did have one wrestling event there last year. It was the intercity, high school intercity was there. So that was with 2 mats, and it's a pretty great atmosphere. I think it's a great building for wrestling. It's big enough to hold a great crowd and get rowdy, but then the crowd can be right there on the mat. But it's intimate enough, it's small enough to where like it feels full, and it can be a really good time, I think. And hopefully we can put on a great show. And
this will be in the arena, correct?
This will be in the arena. Yeah, it's not going to be in the field house like you said, the other events that people have probably seen, where it's I don't even know if I'd say organized chaos. This is kind of chaos.
It's chaos.
And, and so it won't look like that. It'll be inside the arena. We'll have entries. It's going to be our senior night as well. It's our only home duel, so we're going to recognize our 3 seniors. And so I think it'll be all around. It'll be a really great night. And we're hoping to, like I said, we're hoping to pack the place, give away all those towels, and hopefully next time they have to order a few more.
I like that plan. That's for sure. Yeah. And that's the only home event on the schedule, obviously, for the year. Yeah. But, when you look at the way the early season portion in particular lays out, you get to stay close to home in November, and then the weekend before Thanksgiving, heading up to Eau Claire before a couple trips in Naperville in December. As you were kind of putting together the schedule with Brett in the spring, were there any particular changes you were trying to make from last year? No, really, there's no dual meet competition at all. Last year was the plan for year one.
That's the primary, is we added the dual meet. There were a couple of spots where I felt like we needed to fill in, where we just had longer breaks, and so we tried to fill that in with some competitions, keep guys sharp, but also give them enough rest, let their bodies recover from weight cuts and recover from competitions. But really adding the dual meets was the biggest thing from the men's side. The women's side had to be completely built, so we didn't really have much built in July. And I got in there, and there was a moment, a little bit of anxiety, but that's okay. That's okay. I can handle it. I've been around long enough. So I just made a few phone calls, and we built that together pretty quick and got the girls, I think, a great schedule where they get a lot of competition, a lot of opportunity to grow. Like I said, that team is all freshmen, so it's 5 freshmen, and they're going to get a lot of opportunity to be exposed to high level, and also a lot of opportunity to be successful, I think. So we're looking forward to both schedules.
Yeah. So we're going to make you talk about yourself for a minute here, which I know every coach just loves to sit here and do. But I know, so many people obviously will be familiar with you from work with both wrestling and teaching in town, and then obviously as an assistant coach last year. But tell us just a little about your background in general, in education and coaching and wrestling specifically, and what's been so great about this position now for the last year and a half for you.
Yeah, so I started, I moved to Bloomington, like really partway through high school. So I finished up here, and so I've been in the area for, I don't even know how old I am, but it's probably 30 years. It's probably been around 30 years that I moved here, and I just went around and did some wrestling here, finished up here, and career after probably didn't go the way I wanted, and I was back here really quick. I was back here pretty fast at Bloomington, and got an assistant coaching job. I've been coaching it. I coached at Bloomington High School for 17 years. Took 1 year at Parkside Junior High in between before I transitioned over and took over the Normal West program in town. Did that for 8 years, and then Coach Robbins was actually one of my wrestlers back when he was in high school. So I coached him since he was a little kid all the way through high school, and so when he came back, he gave me a call, and I was a little apprehensive at first, like what are we looking at? What's that look like? Because I have a job and things, I have a coaching job, and I know what I'm doing there, and what does it look like? And he sold me on it, and man, it had me hooked. I loved it. The first season went really, really well. And the group of guys that we had in here were awesome. Kayla, our athletic trainer, she's awesome. And just working with the administration, everybody kind of took me in here, and I wanted to keep going, so and keep building on what we had started, and so now we're ready for year 2 and looking to continue to build.
Yeah, and aside from obviously continuing to recruit, because you have that awkward situation as a second-year program where you need a lot of freshmen right away to be able to have a program, and then maybe slightly smaller classes down the line. But aside from that, any particular goals that stand out in your mind for where you hope to be able to take this program over the next couple of years?
in the next couple of years, we're here to win championships. That's what we want to do. And is that probably realistic right now today? When we get to February, winning a championship, I don't know. I'm not a very realistic person, I guess. I'm a pretty optimistic person, and you just work hard and you put your head down and you trust in your plan and you get guys to buy into that plan and then you see where it takes you and you make adjustments as you go. And so, but at the end of the day, we want to win championships. Both CCIW, we want to win CCIW championships. We want to be at the top of our regional. We want to win national titles. And, I think I've been really, really fortunate to bring in a group of guys as a staff, both that have come in and they've bought into it right away. They have experience coaching college. They have a lot of experience coaching high school. And then, just their personalities with the kids. Everybody brings a little bit different to the table. And, we have one guy, he goes and attacks recruiting like crazy. We bring in groups of kids and, we're looking to build there. And they said, we love the group that we had, the returners. We love the group we brought in this year. And that's just going to continue. And so, we have our plan, we have our eyes on that path, and we're just going to trust it and then make adjustments as we go until we get where we want to be.
That's a perfect segue because the last thing I wanted to ask you about is the rest of your staff and kind of how that came together over the last couple months and how it's been going so far in the early season.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been great. So it's some guys that I know from the past, from just the coaching world. So Michael Triplett, he's been coaching. So he coached down at Lincoln College, and then he's been coaching at Normal. When they closed down, he's been back coaching at Normal Community. He's our full-time assistant, and so he's great. He helps take care of our facility during the day. He runs workouts during the day. If a kid can't be at practice at common time, he sets up workouts with them. He gets done pretty much anything that we need to get done. He's a go-getter. Really great guy, brings a lot of energy. Brian Roberts, he came to us from Leroy High School, so he went and wrestled so Michael had wrestled at Loris, was national qualifier at Loris. Brian Roberts, he came from Leroy. He wrestled up in Minnesota in college, and then now he's been back coaching at Leroy. And he, like I said, he brings a lot of energy, and he loves to recruit, which I love a guy that loves to recruit because it's not always my favorite. But he gets on the horn and he's getting our name out there. And I told him when he came in, you're going to get our name out there so people know we have a program and get interested because the school sells itself if we get kids here. Steve Robbins, so Brett's brother, is helping out. So Steve, I coach Steve too, so I know him, I trust him. He's been around, he's a great guy. Just he's going to care for kids, and he's there. And then we're setting up. We have another guy who's coming in, is going to help with our club. So kind of help with opportunities in the off season. So we're setting up a club. Sean Reynolds, he's terrific. He came from Millikan University. He'd been doing their club down there. So he's going to be coming up and helping with our club and helping give our kids opportunities outside of season to continue to train, especially our girls who are, the girls wrestle freestyle in college and they can continue that in the Olympic styles. So, so that's really a pretty good group of guys. Like I said, just great guys that are going to care about kids, and like I said, that they've bought in, and we all have the same vision.
Yeah, it's been exciting to see so much of this come together over the last year and a half. After we went from a pretty quick announcement of when we think the program's come back, we think all right, now it's official, it's coming back, and then boom, we're going to compete next year, and just watching that come together the last year and a half or so, and now seeing this first group of freshmen who really, were able to finish their junior year of high school, start looking at schools, knowing that I can go wrestle at Illinois Wesleyan, get a great education, and be part of the return of and the start of what should be a great program. So good luck with everything, Coach. Good luck at the opener down at Millikan on November 9th, and then once again, November 15th, we'll give this another plug next week, but November 15th, that Friday, 7 p.m., home duel against Millikan Senior Day. Come on out and see the first wrestling meet back at the Shirk Center. Yeah,
feel free to come out and get rowdy. Get rowdy too. We like it loud. We want it hot. We want to make it uncomfortable for Millikan. So
I love it. It'll be a lot of fun. Be there November 15th. We'll see you there. Thanks for everything, Coach.
Hey, thank you.
It's time to play Did You Know with Illinois Wesleyan. First off, true or false, on average, over half of tuition for accepted students is covered by scholarships and grants. True, IWU invests more than $40 million in scholarships and grants for students each year. Where has IWU ranked in highest earning graduates among small schools in Illinois? If you guessed number 1, you got it! And what's even better, IWU is the number 1 college in Illinois for getting a job and number 7 in the nation. Last question, how much does it cost to apply to Illinois Wesleyan? If you said nothing, well, you're right! There's absolutely no application fee. So what are you waiting for? Visit, apply, and see all the opportunities for success that await you at Illinois Wesleyan University.
Welcome back inside the Ames Library podcast studio. Done talking wrestling for the day and moving on to football. First with, of course, head coach Norm Eash. Coach, a very exciting, thrilling, dramatic, back-and-forth victory against Augustana on Saturday. Before we talk details, any quick takeaways from that game on your end?
Well, first of all, it was a great home victory at Tucci Stadium. We always want to please our fans, and it's really nice when the president of the university has his tent down the end zone. You get to see everyone down there watching the game. But it was great to win at home, getting our fourth CCIW win. It was a total team effort. It was the offense, defense, special teams, everybody. And we played hard, and we refused to lose. I mean, we came from behind twice, got the lead, and then kind of secured it at the very end. The defense shut them down at the very end. But it was good to be in that 29-21 score because they needed 8 points to tie us. So we did a good job of managing the game, especially the second half.
Yeah, and that was, coming off a tough loss up at North Park and kind of a difficult, in a way, start to the game this past weekend. Really, each team had 2 scoring chances in about the first 20-25 minutes. I think not quite in the red zone for Augustana, one of them, but essentially you're talking about 2 red zone drives each. Augie comes away with 2 touchdowns. Caden Young hits 2 field goals, so one of which from 34, I think one from 27, but you're staring down the 14-3 and then 14-6 deficit right away right there. But a really great drive at the end of the first half, in particular to pull back within 2 points. 13 plays, 95 yards, eating up, for the remaining 5 minutes, but it was basically, I think Augie ran 2 running plays after that and headed into the locker room. Really a statement drive at the end of the first half, would you say?
Yeah, the offense went to work, and you got to give credit to those guys up front. They did a great job. We rushed the ball for 240 yards, and that says a lot when you can do that against a good Augustana defense. But when you look at stats, the most important stat is the score, right? And you always want to be on top of that. But if you look at some things, we were 6 for 6 in the red zone, and part of that is Caden Youngie. And then we were 9 for 16 in third down conversions. And so those are really great stats. So the offense did a great job. And I think the defense shut down their run game. They have a good running attack. They have a big offensive line. They had a good little tailback. But our defense kept them in check most of the day. Our nemesis again was, a couple big plays, but you take those away, and I thought our defense did a great job.
I know we don't share notes before we talk about this, but I've got one little bullet point down here. It's a line and a half long. It says rushing offense, IW 234, Augie 81, held him to 2.8 yards per carry. 9 for 16 on third down for the Titans, 2 for 2 on fourth down. And the last thing it says, Augie scored on 1 of 3 red zone trips and Titans 6 for 6.
Yeah, that tells a story. Yeah. It really does. We had, they actually had more first downs, but we had more total yardage. But, when you can rush the ball the way we did, then we can do almost anything we want. And we had some, I thought our passing game was really good. Jimmy Dacy, sophomore receiver, had a great day, made some great catches. He won some one-on-one battles that were just tremendous for us and kept drives alive. And so, it goes back to what I told our football team. In every game, there's 4 or 5 plays that are going to determine the outcome. And we won all those plays in the second half. And that allowed us to win. We didn't do that against North Park, and then I thought we didn't do that against Wheaton and Warshu, and those are games that we thought that we could win. We didn't, but when we look back at the games, those are the things that kind of jump out at you.
Yeah, and you talk about keeping drives alive in particular. We talked about that 5-minute drive at the end of the first half. 3 big third down conversions, 2 of which were Jimmy Dacy catches, like you just pointed out. One of them, a Dermot Smythe, I think a 5-yard run maybe on a 3rd and 1 there. And then, of course, Miles' touchdown catch was also on a 3rd and goal opportunity there. So really 4 third down conversions in 4 attempts on that drive. And then, you look at really on the defensive side, it was a lot of the same story, that kind of bend but don't break. I think Augie had 26 first downs, if that's right, but they had on their longest drive in the third quarter, I think it was, going into the fourth. I mean, they had 3 first downs. Titan defense held in the red zone right there, and Clem missed a kick for what I believe is the first time all year, extra point or field goal, if I remember hearing that note from Eric Stott correctly. And then once again on Augustana's drive at the end of the game, made it down to the 17, but then don't break.
The other big drivers right at the end of the game when the score was, we had to get to, it was 21, and we had to get to 29. And so we went on a long drive that took up a lot of time too, and I think the final score was Dermot Smythe going up the middle on what we call a power play, and that really got us to 8-point lead, which I thought was a key, and that kept our defense off the field that fourth quarter. So big drive at the end of the first half, and then a big drive at the end of the game that really kind of sealed their fate.
Yeah, and it's that putting both those things together, because that was a 7.5 minute drive there in the fourth quarter that ran it down from 10 to 3 minutes to go, I think. And when you're able to eat that much clock, Danny Kent obviously had a couple of big runs in there. Jahari Scott did too, but again, 3 third down conversions, a couple that time to Miles Key, and then the last one being Dermot's 15-yard touchdown run, and just a huge boost for an offense that's had a lot of great moments this year.
We've done some great things offensively, and we've answered the bell, as I say. I mean, when we have to get some points on the board, we have done that. Again, we got to make sure that when we put points on the board, our defenses got to get themselves off the field, and get us back out there. So, but this game we did that, and it was a great win, and we need that going into a tough game up at Carroll. I mean, we got to go on the road. They play well at home. They're a good football team, and so we got to carry over and do things a little bit better than what we did last week to win.
Yeah, and for all those of you who are up in the Chicago, southern Wisconsin area planning to go to that game or just planning to tune in online, that is a noon kickoff up at Carroll and Waukesha, and you'll see it all over the website this week, but it is noon, like I think every other CCW game was this past weekend. In fact, I think we're the only 1 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, that was a new rule that when in November games start at noon unless teams agree, and Augie's not that far away, and 1 o'clock is what we wanted to play, and so they agreed to it. But yeah, most of the games in November are 12.
Yeah, so remember that for this weekend. Don't miss the first quarter and a half. Good luck, Coach, up at Carroll this weekend, and congrats again on a great win.
Thank you. We're looking forward to getting our next CCIW win.
Yes.
They say inside every challenge is an opportunity. At Illinois Wesleyan, you have the power to seize that opportunity. Discover the tools, the mentors, and the experiences to take on any challenge and shape not just who you are, but who you will become. The best college in Illinois for jobs is right here. Tap or click now to start your free application and break through at Illinois Wesleyan University.
And we'll continue talking football for a few more minutes here. We'd like to welcome in 2 players making their first appearance on Titan Table Talk this season, senior defensive back Artist Benjamin and sophomore wide receiver Jimmy Dacy. Gentlemen, congrats on a big win once again. Welcome. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Artist, I want to talk to you a little bit. This is an Augustana roster that's seen a fair amount of turnover from last year when they had one of their most successful seasons in a long time. One of the places, as you're preparing for them, you didn't really expect to be seeing a new face was a quarterback position. Cole Bardwaj has been largely a 4+ year starter for them now, but hasn't played nearly as much in October. Liam Crawley's taken a lot more of the snaps at the quarterback spot in October for Augustana. So what was that like, looking at film for Augie coming into this week and then preparing to face a quarterback who despite the fact it's his fourth year in the program, you didn't necessarily have a lot of tape on.
Really, we approach it the same way as every other week. The quarterbacks, they play kind of a similar way, so we approached it the same way. Number 2, I believe it was an old quarterback. He was good, but yeah, just number 13, we thought he was better, and he was able to make a couple good plays on us, but we still played well, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, as we talked about with Coach Eash a few minutes ago, very much a bend but don't break a lot of defense. Like, Augie did graduate a lot from a very talented offensive team, but they can still move the ball. And they got the 2 scores in the early going, one of which was on the short field after the fumble, I think a 45-yard scoring drive. But really after that, 14 points in the first 20-ish minutes for Augustana, and then just the 1 score after that on the big play. What was kind of the adjustments you guys made after that first quarter and a half that really kind of, locked it down from there? They could barely move the ball on the ground, and 2.8 yards per carry, as we talked about with Coach Eash.
Our offense was just really moving the ball, so when we saw that, we just told our defense that we just need to do our job, and if we do our job, we're going to win this game. And every drive, we just went out with that mentality. As long as we gave the offense the ball back, we knew they were going to score, and they kept doing their job, so that just kept giving us even more confidence.
Yeah, and a big part of that, Jimmy Dacy, of course, and we talked a little bit with Coach Eash earlier about a couple big catches you had on that first long drive toward the end of the first half, 5-minute drive, a couple of big third down conversions. But as you guys were kind of looking at the Augustana defensive game plan, obviously, used to game planning for the duo a lot of times last year of Trey Moore and Miles Key at wide receiver. Graham now out of the picture, but with your emergence this year as a really big time threat on the sidelines in particular at the wide receiver spot. Do you have anything in particular you were looking for in coverage?
No, we knew they had like an all-conference corner, so I wouldn't say we were staying away from him, but we were alert of him, and so we knew the other DBs weren't as good as him. But it was just good to kind of make some plays on the other guys, and Miles is a great receiver, so sometimes that may help open some other stuff up for other guys too, which is good.
Yeah, I think you can get some of that in any game plan, but especially when you've got so much attention being paid to Miles.
Yeah.
Who is capable of taking the top off a defense at any given time. Obviously can open up a lot for you, but also you can even open up a lot down low for when you've got a good dual threat quarterback in Dermott. He had that 15-yard touchdown run toward the end of the ball game. Also had another one that was called back on the block and the back penalty earlier. But how much does his ability to open up the top of the defense and your ability to take a lot of attention open up the ground game too for the really, kind of three-headed monster at this point of Danny Kent and Jahari Scott and then Dermott?
Yeah, it's just good to have multiple weapons on offense, especially, like you said, Miles they're paying a lot of attention to him, and then some of the other receivers get chances, and then, maybe they'll focus on the pass, and then the run game opens up, and the offensive line too they've been fantastic, and they're probably the offensive MVP that game. They just played lights out, and we had 240-something rushing yards, which was huge, and it helped chew up a lot of clock in the second half and keep our defense off the field. And, they weren't able to score much.
Yeah, and the more you can keep Artist and the rest of the crew rested there, that, again, you're talking about running the 7 of the last 10 minutes off the clock on a methodical, effective drive. Not counting on defensive penalties, anything like that, just counting on a great rushing offense. I think it was the first drive of the second half. It might have been right after, it was right after Danny's 62-yard rush. It was the next drive after that all 8 plays that actually picked up positive yardage were rushing plays, and you got 3 different guys picking up the majority of that, so you're able to get some fresh legs in on there, which is just, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Artist, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, kind of the adjustment as a captain from a really tough loss last week and a game where I think everybody walked out of that locker room in Chicago thinking that should have been a win, to getting down in the early going against Augustana and very clearly being in the we're going to come back and we're going to get this done mentality on the sidelines. What was the feeling like on that sideline facing that early deficit, but knowing that you guys have the talent and the drive to come back?
We just knew that we just had to dig deep. We knew that all of our guys had it. We lost to those guys 3 straight years, and just most of our senior guys on the defense just said, we can't let this happen again. And I think that just really motivated us. We knew that they've come back from deficit, they're a deficit coming back team, and we just had to just keep stopping them and just getting our offense back out there, and that really made the difference just down the road, yeah.
Yeah, and as it was, I mean, it was really a back-and-forth game till the very end. I mean, taking a 1-point lead into that last drive, finally opening it up to still a 1-possession game, but an 8-point game there at the end of the ball game, and Augie had 3 minutes to drive down the field and made it most of the way, but stopped at the I think it was at the 17-yard line with that final sack coming from was it Matt Hansen? Zach McNeese. It was Zach McNeese at the end of the game. That's right. So Jimmy, as you've kind of gotten through now your first season and a half here at Illinois Wesleyan, if we can still remember this far back, I want to kind of take a little trip back to kind of junior, senior of high school as you were looking at schools and looking at places to play. Why Illinois Wesleyan at first, kind of what stood out, and how did we ultimately end up here?
Yeah, I mean, I remember Coach Eash came in and talked to us, a couple of the seniors at my high school, and I never really heard of it, but he had a lot of good points, and so I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and take a visit, and I ended up just really liking it, and he added on our great academics on top of it, so I felt like a perfect fit for me.
Yeah, it's certainly been exciting too to see what you've been able to do this year alongside Miles and Trey, and then obviously with the wide receiver room facing some graduations this year.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of big roles ahead. But how do you feel your chemistry has meshed with Dermott so far this year?
I think it's been good. Me and Durham, we don't live too far apart, so we're always throwing over the summer and stuff. So I feel like it's just really good to have that payoff and have some connections going in the game. And, just hopefully we could keep that going too.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's nice to be sitting there as 2 sophomores knowing that, health and everything else hopefully going according to plan, you get to play together for a long time and really get to develop that, which is not necessarily something you get to see in college all the time. You can easily go through, 3 years as a wide receiver with 2 or 3 different quarterbacks, depending on the game plan, depending on how lucky you get health-wise, certainly. And Artist, from your perspective, kind of seeing this program through a couple of years, it was really a lot younger and a lot more inexperienced than usual, to now a team that is back to competing with the top end of the CCIW. Any favorite memories in particular, football related or otherwise, as you kind of look back on these 4 years?
Honestly, just this past weekend, finally beating Augie. As coming in as a freshman, the seniors then told me the one team that they needed to beat was Augie, and that's just the team I despise the most, and it just felt great. It just felt great beating them.
Some good bulletin board material for next year. There you go. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Congrats again on the big win this weekend, and good luck up in Waukesha. Once again, a noon kickoff for the Titans facing the Pioneers up at Carroll. Good luck. Go get them.
Thank you.
Why is Illinois Wesleyan the #1 school in Illinois for jobs? Maybe it's because we're the AND University. That's right, A-N-D. And here you can explore the arts and study in a pre-professional program, double major and play a sport, do an internship and study abroad. Your opportunities are endless. Tap or click now to explore Illinois Wesleyan and start your free application today.
Welcome back once again. Our next guest, our second member of the men's basketball staff to appear on the show this fall. That would be 11th year assistant coach Andy Etheridge. Andy, welcome for the first time this year. How are we doing?
I'm doing well, Tommy. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. Very excited to get the season officially underway this Friday.
Yeah.
But before we talk Sikma, I think we should go back over this last week or so, talk about two really fun, big-time exhibition trips. Of course, the October 27th game up at DePaul, and then 3 days later, last Wednesday, hitting Hinkle Fieldhouse, playing Butler, a couple of Big East games. Takeaways first on the court from those.
Yeah, it was a great week. Really, what a fun experience for our guys, right? And really the whole program and I think the university as well. And so basketball-wise, there was a lot of good that came out of it. It was nice to see a different colored jersey and go against somebody else other than your teammates, right? You hit that point in preseason where it's like, okay, we're ready to not do this against each other for a little bit, right? And so fun for the guys to get a new opponent and have to prepare and do a scouting report and see how they scouted us and try to execute how we scouted them. So it was fun in that sense, right? And then I think for DePaul, really came out and had really good moments, right? There was a couple stretches where fatigue kind of set in a little bit, but for the most part, we really competed, shot the ball well. We were really physical. That was one of the things that their coaches had said to us was just they noticed how physical we were and certainly didn't back down because, some of the size difference and things like that. So really encouraging to especially be the first game out to see how our stuff worked and defensively to see how we locked in and kind of dug our heels in and really sat and guarded them. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, when you look at facing a Big East team and a team that's going to outclass you size-wise and talent-wise in general at most positions on the court, being able to walk out there and hold them to 39% shooting, it is an exhibition game. Your mentality is maybe a little bit different, but 39% is 39% for a Division I opponent.
We really kind of hung our cap on defense the past couple of years, and that's really kind of transitioned to this group as well. It's a group that takes a lot of pride defensively and is willing to communicate and really take pride on that end of the floor. You know what I mean? And so I do think our length maybe surprised them a little bit. We've got some size, obviously, at the wing spots and down the post. And, yeah, it was good to see some of the things that we wanted to do and continue to kind of work at a little bit higher level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So now, can we do it again? Moving forward and maintain that, right? So, but it was really fun to see that kind of click that first game.
Yeah, for sure. Butler, of course, were tough maybe last 10 minutes of the first half. We're able to play with them at the beginning, play with them a lot in the second half. And as you're talking about that trip, aside from getting to visit a historic place, a lot of good basketball stuff came out of that one, too, I think, from watching.
There really was. I know it sounds, with the final score, it's going to sound a little crazy, but there was a lot of good basketball being played. Even that scoring drought that we kind of went through, for a good chunk of that, not the whole thing. There were certainly some tough shots there that we could have gotten better looks at, but within that, there was a lot of good things happening, right? There were good shots that we want, shots that we think our offense is creating for guys. And so there was a lot of good, especially when you look back on the film to see how we were getting those shots. Now we just got to put it in the bucket a little bit more, right? And as kind of it built, you could see we were just getting a little bit more hesitant maybe in just rising up. But I thought the second half we really responded, right? We went into halftime, certainly frustrated, trying to figure out, okay, how do we fix this? But coming out of halftime, we got great looks right off the bat, right? We got 3-4 possessions right at the rim, right where we wanted to get it. The ball started going in a little bit more, and so a huge credit to our guys to be able to come back and not just kind of sit in that frustration, right? They were able to move on and really kind of execute what we wanted to do in the second half, and it was nice to see them be rewarded for that because there was really good stuff to continue to learn from and certainly parts that, okay, how do we better respond maybe a little bit earlier, right, in that first half and how do we work through that a little bit more, but overall the film was really good learning moments kind of leading into a big weekend for us, and that was really encouraging to see when we went back and watched the film.
Yeah, and part of the whole point of playing those games, obviously a big part is the experience, but a big part is also go play the best teams you can find within a reasonable drive that also makes it a cool place to play, a cool alumni event, and take that and be prepared for the teams you're going to see at Sikma, the teams you're going to see it down the road in the CCW schedule. were you able to enjoy any of the off-court stuff really at DePaul or Butler, or kind of mostly just focused on the game?
That's always that balance, right, of trying to figure out how do you enjoy everything else going around the game itself while not losing sight of the fact that we're there, and I had the Butler scouting report, and you're there to compete, right? And so, but I thought we did a great job. Some of the staff, the athletic department, and the athletic communications really just gave us a really fun experience for those 2 days. You know what I mean? The guys got to kind of see more than just the basketball part, right? Which was, I think, a big part of what we do, and that's kind of what our level's about as well. You know what I mean? So, yes, it was a great week. Big East week ended up being a huge success for us, and we'll see how it translates more this upcoming weekend with the basketball side.
Yeah, and moving into this weekend, of course, we talked a little bit about the Sikma tournament with Coach Rose a couple weeks ago. But, of course, for those of you who maybe have not looked on IWsports.com in the last 4 months, which is probably none of you, that Friday the Titans do play that first game. First game on Friday, 5 p.m., 16th-ranked Titans taking on 24th-ranked Cal Lutheran. And then the 7/7-ish p.m. game. The second ball game will be UW Platteville and Calvin, a battle of 2 top 10 teams, ranked 2nd and 9th in the preseason poll coming into play. A little preview of what we can expect this weekend.
What a fun tournament to start out the year with, right? It's 4 teams that all won their conference last year, obviously all ranked in the top 25 preseason. It's going to be some really good competitive basketball, which is what we want, right? That's what we want Sikma to be about. We want some of the best teams across the country to come together and kickstart the season, right? And so it's exciting to see that kind of come together again. For us, Cal Lou, that's their returning game when we were out there last year. It was a really competitive, physical game out at their place. They're so well coached. Coach White is a really good guy and gets those guys playing really hard. And so we're excited for that. That was a tough one for us out at their place, and excited to get another chance at them. You know what I mean? So they're coming in midweek and getting prepped, and we're excited to host them. On the other side of it, talk about 2 great teams who've had a ton of success historically and certainly of late. And yeah, what a battle that's going to be, right? We're sitting there certainly preparing, but you're also kind of sitting there just wanting to watch as a fan, because it's going to be 2 teams that they're old. Both teams have a lot of returning guys, a couple fifth-year guys. So it's 2 competitive, exciting matchups this weekend that should lead to a great weekend of basketball.
Yeah, it certainly should. And as kind of tried to make a tradition at the Sikma tournament, some sort of Titan-related celebration on Saturday night this year, welcoming back all the former all-CCW players between games on Saturday. Is the plan? That's
the plan. So Saturday, it's been really fun to kind of get some alums back and be able to recognize some people that really built this program, right? That's built the tradition of success. And so this year we're excited to bring back anybody that was recognized as an all-conference CCIW member during their time as a player. We've invited them to come back. We've got a good chunk of them coming back, which is really exciting. So that will be Saturday in between the 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock game. At some point, those details will be released a little bit later this week, but they'll be recognized in between the 2 games on Saturday, and should be a fun day just to be able to get some of those guys back into the Shirk Center or back to Shirk when they represented Titan basketball so long ago.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, certainly, both once again, the basketball stuff and all the off-the-court stuff. And I know you'll probably sleep really well Saturday night.
Saturday night, going into Sunday will be a good night for me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's hard to imagine a much better way to kick off the season than this weekend, certainly. And I just to give the fans out there a little bit of a preview, a little bit of insight as to, between you and Ron, and then between Bobby and Aaron and Ryan Schmidt, what is like game day week, especially for back-to-back games this weekend, and especially with all the other off-the-court stuff going on this weekend? Kind of how do your duties all shake out for this week?
Yeah, it's a great question. So starting with the basketball part, right? That's the part we got to really lock in on. And so you're preparing for 3 teams. Obviously, Cal Lou's the easy one because we know we're playing them. And so I've got the Cal Lou Scout, and so I've been working on that for the last few days, and we'll finish that up here relatively soon. Coach Wheat's got UW Platteville, so he'll kind of lock in on them and have that prepared, so that way as soon as our game is done, if we end up playing Platteville, he'll have that ready to rock and roll, so we have it prepared for our guys. Coach Schmidt and myself are kind of split in the Calvin Scout, and so again, he'll kind of take a little bit of lead on that one, but again, based on how the games go Friday. Whoever ends up playing the other opponent, we'll have somebody prepared and ready to go. We'll do a little live scouting as well in that second game after ours. And so then you're prepared. That's the nice part. And so in terms of what it looks like in terms of hosting the tournament, we've got great help. That's what's nice. Anybody from the athletic department and some other folks on campus, we've had a ton of people kind of step in to make this a first-class event, which is what we wanted from the get-go, right? And so in terms of team host and just logistics, we have a banquet. There's so many people that have come together on campus to help make this special for not just our team, but really the teams that are coming in as well, right? We want them to enjoy their trip coming to Illinois Wesleyan, and it's really a campus-wide thing that makes it possible, right? And so we got a banquet for the teams on Friday, which will be really fun, and we get them some Sikma gear, and Jack coming back this year again is going to be just incredibly special for those guys to be able to see him, meet him, and hear some of his stories. So a busy week, but a really fun week, and one that we think our kids and certainly other teams deserve to have.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see so many alums, so many of our Titan fans we maybe haven't seen around a lot since February back in the Shirk Center for the first time in a while. Good luck with everything this weekend, Andy, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate it.
We'll be back in a few minutes with Kim Nelson-Brown.
I can see it now. The smell of the grass on the quad. That sense of excitement in the air each fall. It feels like yesterday. While I'm no longer 18, I know there are students out there ready for an opportunity like I had. For the space to discover passions, bond over dreams, and make lifelong friends. Breakthrough at Illinois Wesleyan University.
And our final guest of the day here in Week 10, as promised, is head women's volleyball coach Kim Nelson-Brown. How you doing, Kim?
I'm good. How are you, Tommy?
I'm great. You're looking maybe a year or two younger than you were this morning when I last saw you, but
maybe.
But Kim was indeed called away for a last-minute meeting. So this, for those of you who don't know, which of our viewers is probably none, is assistant women's volleyball coach Tyler Brown. And Ty, it's been a while, actually, since we've had anyone on to talk volleyball, almost a month, coming off the North Park and Milliken victories, which are obviously a couple very exciting ones to sit here and chat about, to say the least. And really been a fun 4 weeks since then, if we go all the way back to the Carthage sweep at home. Taking care of business there in that second week of October, and then a couple of 5-set road wins over North Central and Augustana, and then, of course, the 3-1 victory up at Carroll on Tuesday, which clinched only the second 8-0 CCIW season in program history. So obviously you were on the team that swept the conference play the first time back in 2018. How cool was that to see them finish the job with a couple really hard-fought road battles?
It was so awesome. I mean, I feel like obviously you always want to win conference, but to have it undisputed and go 8-0 and be first place and not have to share with anyone, that's even better. And I think, we've talked about how it's nice that we're sitting here, we're kind of watching it all unravel. And in the past, we've had moments where, you're waiting to see if someone beats another team for us to get in. So to know we have that number one spot has been awesome.
Yeah, and getting to take care of business against, 3 big-time contenders at the Shirk Center was nice. But then, of course, getting the chance to host the tournament and be able to sit here knowing that you're hosting the tournament it's a really good position to be in. I feel like maybe a little bit of an understatement right there.
Yeah.
But comforting knowing that you're going to have a big home crowd showing up the 14th and hopefully the 16th as well for those games.
100%. I think our crowd at Milliken and North Park were huge for us to get those wins, and they really helped us keep the momentum. And even the Elmhurst win before those 2 matches when we had men's soccer arrive, volleyball is such a momentum sport, so to have that big a crowd, it truly makes a difference. So it's nice to play on our home court.
And one of those kind of weird things, especially this year and last year with the way the schedule lines up, is that you do end up with quite a few, as we were just talking about before we went on the air, non-conference matches in between the end of conference play and the postseason. Simpson and Albion, both victories last weekend on the 26th. And then Thursday, a hard-fought 4-set loss to 8th-ranked Wash U. And you get a chance to see some quality teams, but some quality teams that you don't have necessarily the same familiarity with as the Millikens, Carthages, et cetera of the world. And what did you learn, especially out of the Stevens Point and out of the Wash U matches? Anything you learned, anything you saw out of the team that is really going to help you prepare for CCIW tournament play?
Yeah, I think one of our things we're doing really well this year is serving aggressive, and it keeps teams out of system. And so I think we need to continue to carry that into postseason, because then our blockers aren't guessing of who they're going to give the ball to. It kind of makes it plain and simple that the outside or the right side's going to get the ball. And I think we just need to continue to run our crossing pattern. So that's something that really helps us and keeps the other team on their toes. And we, compared to other teams, I think have more free ball plays and movement within our offense, which is a good asset. So keep doing that.
Yeah, and it's something you can tell, I think, if you go out and even if you just watch a couple sets at a time. Is there a line for you or for Kim personally where how aggressive is too aggressive versus you'll take some service errors in order to get some bad returns and keep teams out of system?
Right. I mean, obviously, if you're wanting to serve aggressive, you're going to have some errors in there. And I think we've done a good job this year of we are aggressive, but we really haven't had that many service errors. I think we had one match where we felt like there were a lot. But other than that, I mean, our team has confidence behind the line. We talk about having a routine. So I think they go back there, do the routine, and just get it done. And especially this past game, we were able to mix in some more short serves than we have been this past season, and that made a huge difference as well.
Yeah, Sophie Feeney in particular with the
Yes.
short serve just looping right over the net really has the touch on that one. But it helps to have that variety too. And I would think there's a little bit of a mental side to it where if you know this is a strategy, it almost helps take a little of the pressure off you. I have to get every single serve in. So, okay, I'm going for it. I'm going for the back line. I'm going for short serve right over the net. And if I miss one, okay, life goes on. That's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. And I think this year it's nice that we have so many different servers that are equally competitive, and it's not like we're just relying on one person who usually gets most of the aces. I know Taylor French and Alex Spartanitis are both leading in conference-only stats for their aces per set. So to have several different people contributing and keeping other teams on their toes, I mean, it's huge that we're not just relying on one person waiting for them to get behind the service line.
Yeah, and speaking of not having to just rely on one person, we've talked so much about the depth at the hitter position on the outside specifically, but one who's really come on in the last month and played some of the best volleyball we've seen from her in the last year and a half has been Kaylin Shannon, for sure.
100%.
Career high 13 kills against Wash U the other night, of course, but when I was kind of looking at this earlier today, and before October 1st, in her year and a half, she had 6 matches total with more than 5 kills in 1.5 seasons. In the month of October, she had at least 6 kills in 10 matches.
That's awesome.
10 of 12.
Yeah.
So what have you seen from her specifically?
I think more confidence in her play. I think we've always known she has the ability to really be a threat at the net, and I think this year she's just taken it and kind of ran with it. It's been huge to see her come alive in October, and I think she's become a pin hitter that we can really rely on to get the job done. She jumps extremely well, so she has a lot of versatility in mixing up her shots, hitting high hands, and she's been huge with our block too. She sets up a really nice block that has other outside hitters struggling against her.
Yeah, and just, again, having another, and especially someone who's a sophomore, another hitter you can rely on in that group with, of course, Hannah and Eleanor have looked great in the middle all season. But, so many teams last year were able to key on Taylor on the outside, and the Taylor, Alex, Morgan Harrington, Kaylin combination. So, when you've got 2 or 3 of them on at the same time, it gives you a lot more options on offense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we have so much depth this year. I think that's something that we keep talking about, and it gives us versatility too. And both Morgan and Kaylin used to play middle in high school, so they're able to run a quicker tempo offense, and we can move them around and run them on a 1 out of the middle or run them on a slide if they're out of system. So there's just so many components that adds to our game, which has been nice to have out on the court.
And when we talk about depth, and we've hit on this maybe a little bit throughout the season, but not a lot of teams out there with 3 setters with 250 assists each.
No.
In Jordan Pierce, Abby Erdman, and Sophia Feeney, which on the one hand is very, very cool to have. Like, you have 3 players you can trust to run an offense. On the other hand, it create any conundrums on the bench in terms of, okay, what are we going to do this set, this time out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes it hard for us as coaches to make a decision because we have so many talented setters on our team, and we know any day any of them are capable of getting the job done. It is something you very rarely see, to have all three like that, and they all three have their strengths. They're all capable of running an awesome offense, so I think it comes down to, who's on that day or what we need in that moment. Abby was coming back from an injury, so Jordan kind of stepped in and did a great job. So again, it's nice that we have that depth and we have so many options.
I'm going to get to recognize a couple of those setters this weekend, actually. The final home tournament coming up this Saturday. Very brief on the order of many of the tournaments we've hosted through the years, just 3 matches on Saturday. Titans will play in the first and third of those at 9 a.m. against Center and 1 p.m. against Wisconsin Lutheran. And the plan is to recognize the seniors before the 1 p.m. match. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep, so this year we have Abby Erdman, Morgan Harrington, Carly Keel, and Jessie Sarive, and then we also had Jordan Pierce stay for a 5th year. So have a good group that we're going to be sad to see leave, but they've really helped our program progress.
And the hope is they'll get quite a few more chances to play in matches in the green and white after that senior day match, for sure.
That's the goal.
The last thing, as one of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee advisors that I wanted to bring up and talk about a little bit is the trick or treat for canned goods that not we per se, since we were busy working at and coaching the volleyball game on Halloween night. But that we conduct as a department every year on Halloween. And rumor has it this year, possibly the biggest load ever?
Yeah, sounds like it. Our Trick or Treat for Canned Goods has always been a huge thing for SAC and for the community. I think a lot of the athletes enjoy doing it, and so, it's awesome that we have what sounds like 5,400 cans to donate to Center for Hope this year.
I believe that'll be right around the final count. For those who are unfamiliar, it's the 17th year now that our student athletes have done this. Every team has a neighborhood assigned throughout Bloomington Normal, goes out in the community, at least the teams that do not have games on Halloween night.
Yep.
Go out, collect canned goods, wearing Titan gear, wearing costume, whatever it may be. So we do want to say a huge thank you to all the community members out there who have supported this, who have donated throughout the years, who have brought either cash or canned good donations to volleyball tournaments and football and soccer games and things like that the week leading into Halloween. Center for Hope has been the beneficiary of that for the last 8 years, I believe. They'll be changing their name momentarily to Oasis Community Outreach, but a wonderful cause that our athletes have done such a great job supporting. So we want to thank all of our athletes and all of our community members for your support of that initiative over the last 17 years. Tyler, as we look ahead to the final week of the regular season, it is a road game up at Chicago at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and then, of course, senior day on Saturday. Good luck to you. Looking forward to the last few regular season matches and then the CCW tournament.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course.